What's going on, everybody? This is another episode of Nolan's Pod. Today, we are going to answer some questions both in the NFL and the NBA. Let's start in the NFL. The two New York teams in football, the New York Giants and the New York Jets, are making some changes. Let's start with the Jets. You know, they fired Robert Salah. We talked about that already about a month ago. Tuesday they fired GM Joe Douglas. So a head coach and the GM has been fired. You would think, um, a head coach and a GM gets fired in one season, and we're not even done with the NFL season yet. The next thing that's probably going to go is the quarterback. The next thing that's probably going to go is the whole roster in its entirety, most likely, and you start a rebuild. That's what you think. When you have Aaron Rodgers and you trade for Devontae Adams and you give an Aaron Rodgers-led team all these pieces, Allen Lazard, Garrett Wilson, the Brees Halls, and you give them an elite defense, you would think that, the sky's the limit. The New York Jets are going to be back. And it's going to be all flowers and roses. And I thought that this team they were going to succeed. Boy, was I wrong. I was wrong. I thought this team was going to succeed. If you go back to my podcast episodes that I did kind of just before the season started and give me my predictions on who would finish where in the AFC, you would know that I had the New York Giants. I had them up there. They were definitely up there. They were up there. And, well, they not up there. So, boy, was I wrong. But that's what you get in sports. Sometimes you're wrong, sometimes you're right. And there we have it. And for the New York Giants concern, Daniel Jones he's going to be benched. And how this benching is for Daniel Jones for the New York Giants side of things is they're going to start Tommy DeVito. Drew Lock is the backup to Tommy DeVito now. Drew Lock. Remember him from his time with the Denver Broncos and the Seattle Seahawks. And then you got, I think, that third string quarterback is Tim Boyle. And then the fourth string quarterback is Daniel Jones. That's a problem. That's a huge problem. Remember last year when Sean Payton just didn't want to deal with Russell Wilson anymore amid that 5-game winning streak that he took them Broncos on? And they just shunned him out and they like, you're not playing for the rest of the year. This is what this is with Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is better than the three quarterbacks that I just named. Combined, all of them. And he's getting benched, and he's probably not going to play for the rest of the year. And the money that Daniel Jones has is not guaranteed for next year at all. So if there's a positive for New York Giants, Daniel Jones' money is not guaranteed next year at all. And his time with the New York Giants is probably likely ended right here, right now before our very eyes. His last game that he played before they just had this bye week this past week was probably the last game that you see Daniel Jones play in a New York Jets uniform. For whatever reason, Daniel Jones only had one good season. I think that was the 2021 year where him and Brian Daboll took the New York Giants to the playoffs and they won a playoff game in Minnesota. That's the only good year that Daniel Jones has really had. Other than that, it's just been a free fall. It's been disastrous. You name it. It's been horrendous. Daniel Jones had not threw a touchdown at MetLife Stadium in 2 years until he just recently did it. He hadn't threw a touchdown at MetLife Stadium since 2022. We're in 2024. Let that sink in. If you think that's bad, it is. It truly is. And that sums up Daniel Jones' time with the New York Giants. This year alone, I'm going to give you some stats on Daniel Jones. In yards per game, Daniel Jones is 19th in the league with 2,070 passing yards. He's tied for 27th this year of all quarterbacks in 8 touchdowns. He's tied 66 in interceptions with 7 interceptions, tied 66. In QBR, which is quarterback rating, Daniel Jones has a 46.5 QBR rating. That's good for 26th in the NFL. And he has a completion percentage of 63.3. At home, Daniel Jones' completion percentage is 62.9. At home, Daniel Jones has threw for 945 yards. At home, Daniel Jones is only threw for 2 touchdowns at home. At home, Daniel Jones has 4 interceptions at home. 2 touchdowns at home for Daniel Jones and 4 interceptions at home for Daniel Jones. Let that sink in. He's thrown more interceptions at home this year than he has touchdowns. That's crazy. Man. Daniel Jones at home has been sacked 17 times at home. Daniel Jones. His offensive line is horrendous also. So that if you don't have a good offensive line, as a quarterback, you're not going to be able to be successful. At home, as I mentioned, Daniel Jones has only thrown for 2 interceptions or 2 touchdowns. On the road, Daniel Jones has thrown 6 touchdowns on the road. 6, but only 2 at home. Let that sink in. The New York Giants are 2-8 on the season. Daniel Jones is probably done this year, so all those stats I just mentioned to you guys is not good. Daniel Jones at MetLife Stadium is trash. He is trash. And there's no way around that. And if the Giants want to draft Shador or whoever they want to draft as a quarterback, draft him. They're going to be way better than what Daniel Jones is. And maybe Daniel Jones was put in a bad situation. And you can make the argument that he was put in a bad situation his whole time with the New York Giants organization. It's a lot of things they need to fix. Malik Neighbors is one thing that they got right in wide receivers that they drafted this year because he's a star already in the making. He's going to be a stud. No question about it. They have to build out the offensive line. They have to get some receivers around Malik Neighbors. And they have to build a defense. How you going to do that? It's going to be in the draft. It's how you're going to be successful in doing that. And y'all going to need a quarterback. Obviously, because y'all done with Daniel Jones. He's played his final snaps with y'all. Y'all are 2-8 on the year. Y'all should have a high draft pick. Where the New York Giants messed up, you need a running back. Y'all prioritized Daniel Jones over Saquon Barkley. So, and then y'all let Saquon Barkley go to the enemy. Y'all let him go to the opponents. Y'all let him go to the opposition. Y'all let him go to somewhere that's the same team in y'all own division in the Philadelphia Eagles, who's in the same division as y'all. The Eagles are threatening to go to the playoffs, which they are going to the playoffs. They are threatening to not only go into the playoffs, but go far into the playoffs and possibly win a Super Bowl with Saquon Barkley, somebody who the New York Giants should have paid. Y'all prioritized Daniel Jones and giving him money over Saquon Barkley. Y'all disrespected Saquon Barkley. That backfired, number one. Number two, y'all went with Daniel Jones, and that just backfired miserably. Number three, as an organization, as a franchise, y'all are not in a great spot. Y'all are not in a great spot. That concludes what I have to say about the New York Giants. I'm going to give you some stats on Aaron Rodgers. In yards per game this year, Aaron Rodgers is 11th in yards per game this year with 2,442 passing yards. He's tied for 7th in touchdown. Well, he has 17 touchdowns thrown, which is good for tied for 7th for Aaron Rodgers. He's tied 66th in interceptions with 7. Aaron Rodgers has a QBR of 51%, which is good for 24th in the league. Aaron Rodgers' completion percentage is 63.4 completion percentage. Aaron Rodgers has been sacked 26 times. The Jets' overall record is 3-8. Aaron Rodgers was supposed to have a good offensive line. They're horrible. Aaron Rodgers was supposed to have a good receiving core. They're not living up to standards. Aaron Rodgers was supposed to have this elite defense. The New York Jets defense is good, but they're not that elite defense that we've seen them be over the last couple of years. They went all in on getting Aaron Rodgers and traded for Aaron Rodgers. They went all in, and they gave up a lot to get Aaron Rodgers from the Green Bay Packers. And when it first happened, it was a blockbuster trade. Nobody could believe that it had happened. And it was one of those things like this might go down as the greatest trade in NFL history. But this might, once he tore his Achilles in four nights last year, we were like, this could possibly go down as one of the worst trades in NFL history. And you fire your GM and you fire your head coach, that's more than likely means Aaron Rodgers won't be back with the team next year either. Because you bring in a new GM, you bring in a new head coach, they're going to want their own quarterback. They're going to want a whole entirely new quarterback. They're going to want entirely new players. You know what I'm saying? So this is probably Aaron Rodgers last year with the New York Jets. And it ended before it even started, really. It ended before it started, This is going to go down as one of the worst trades in NFL history because it didn't work out. It just didn't work out. And I think that we kind of had to cut Aaron Rodgers some slack because he's 40 years old coming off a torn Achilles. Just because he's Aaron Rodgers did not mean that he was going to be the same. A lot of the blame goes on Aaron Rodgers because we know that Aaron Rodgers cries behind the scenes, which he does. We know Aaron Rodgers puts rosters together behind the scenes and gives a lot of input. How you think they got Devontae Adams? They didn't just magically get Devontae Adams. Aaron Rodgers more than likely vouched for him. Aaron Rodgers will sit up there and say that he didn't, but we all know that he did. They played together in Green Bay. Come on now. Put two and two together. Put the pieces to the puzzle together. It's obvious. We know Aaron Rodgers tends to pout and he's a crybaby at times. And probably not at times, probably all the time. And it didn't work out, so a lot of people are happy. The New York Jets are, as an organization, the New York Giants, their downfall needs to be studied. Both teams play in the same stadium, and you combine those two teams. These two teams play in the same stadium. These two teams are so bad that if they played each other this year, they probably would go to overtime, and it probably would end in a tie. Nobody would win. Nobody would lose. It would probably end in a tie. That's how bad the New York Giants and the New York Jets combined as two franchises are bad right now. That's how bad it is out there in MetLife Stadium, out there in New York. Wow. So you went all in on Aaron Rodgers, and it's a free fall. You go all in on Daniel Jones. You don't pay Saquon Barkley. You see how that worked out. Sports is a cruel thing, man. Sports is a cruel thing if you can't put the pieces to the puzzle together. Sports is a cruel thing if you make the wrong decisions thinking that you made the right decisions. And you have to live with that. You have to live with it. Wow. Moving on to the NBA. As I just mentioned, sports is a cruel thing when you think that you put something together and you put the pieces to the puzzle together correctly, and you put the pieces to the puzzle. You might have put a couple of pieces in the wrong spot, and you wondering why the puzzle's not coming together. Well, you put it in the wrong spot. This offseason, the Philadelphia 76ers already had Joel Embiid. They already had Tyrese Maxey. They wanted to give those two guys some help. They go out, they sign Paul George for free agency. Okay, cool. Everybody thinking that it's flowers and roses, but you had people thinking that it was a concern, and it was a big concern because of injuries. Joel Embiid's injury history, Paul George's injury history. Um, Paul George hyperextended his left knee in a preseason game against the Hawks. Joel Embiid comes to summer. He's playing for Team USA. He looks healthy. He looks fine. The minute training camp starts, the season starts, oh, Joel Embiid's not going to be ready. And we looking like, didn't you just play in the Olympics? You had no limitations, nothing like that. You were getting up and down the court just fine. The minute training camp and the season's coming around, oh, I can't play. I'm hurt. I'm possibly hurt, or I'm managing a knee. You know, we're managing it day by day. We'll see where it goes from here. You know, I have a lot of questions. I don't have time to get into it, but I have a lot of questions. Why were you so good, Joel Embiid, to go during the summertime, but the minute the season rolls around, training camp starting, the preseason's going to start, regular season's going to start, oh, I'm managing a knee. You were healthy during the summertime. Why are you not healthy during the season? That's number one. Number two, after they lost to the Miami Heat the other night, Tyrese Maxey stood up to Joel Embiid. Kyle Lowry called a team meeting after they lost to the Miami Heat. A lot of things were laid down. Players were like they want to be coached harder. Tyrese Maxey stood up to Joel Embiid and said, "You gotta stop. Hey, look, bro, you gotta stop being late to team activities." That's what Tyrese Maxey told Joel Embiid. You gotta stop being late to team activities and stop being late to everything that we do as a ball club. For a guy that's really young, probably 23, 24 years old, and Tyrese Maxey, and he has to tell the superstar of the team, the guy that's supposed to be the leader of the team, hey, look, bro, you got to stop being late for these team things and these team activities and things we do as a ball club. You got to stop being late. You got to show up on time. They say Joel Embiid took it well because him and Tyrese Maxey are really close, and that's all good. But remember when I did the podcast episode about the Philadelphia columnist calling out Joel Embiid, he was right with what he said. The only red flags that columnist had, Marcus Haynes, that he had was he put Joel Embiid's deceased brother in it and his son. That was the only thing that he was wrong about. He shouldn't have did that. We stand on that he shouldn't have did that. Everything else in that article that he put out, he was spot on. And yesterday, they say, Stephen A. Smith said he's got told ever since Joel Embiid's got that money, he's got that bag, he's got that huge contract, he's just changed as a person. Like, he changed how he goes about himself. He changed how he goes about things. That's not good. The reports that are coming out of Philadelphia is not good. And a lot of the reports are on Joel Embiid. But you're the leader of the team, and you say that you want to be here, and you say that you're the process, and you say that you want to win a championship. You just got called out by the Philadelphia columnist. That was right, other than what he said about your family, putting your family in it. Other than that, he was right. Number two, you've been held accountable by somebody that's young, way younger than, not way younger, but younger than you. That's a star in the making in Tyrese Maxey, but it's younger than you. He stood up to you and told you what you needed to hear. Number three, it's all flowers and roses when you're playing for Team USA in the summer, and then we get to the season. It's like, oh, I'm mentioning a knee injury. Number four, I'm tired of hearing about the doggone process. It's been a process for 7-8 years now, and we still in the process. We in the process of right now. You need to be held accountable. Number two, you always hurt. Number three, they put a roster around you guys, and you guys can't stay healthy. Number four, y'all have been overrated, and this is why they say that Joker is better than you. Because when he holds himself accountable. Joker plays night in, night out. And Joker gets his stats night in, night out. And Joker has a championship. Number five, Kyle Lowry called the team meeting. Kyle Lowry has something that y'all are desperately searching for. Y'all searching for a championship. Kyle Lowry has a championship in Toronto. Kyle Lowry is not a guy that's just going to say, oh, I'm just going to call a team meeting just because it needed to be held. Y'all are what? 2-12. 2-12. Kyle Lowry's been a veteran. He's been a guy that has gotten it done for a long time. So he's not calling a team meeting for no reason. You have a head coach in Nick Nurse who picked to coach y'all over the Phoenix Suns. When are we gonna finally hold Joel Embiid accountable? More importantly, when is he gonna hold himself accountable and stop doing all this doggone trolling online and always trolling, saying I ain't gonna play back-to-backs and all this? We don't want to hear about the trolling and all that you do. What are you gonna do on the court? When are you gonna finally stay healthy? When are you finally going to lock in? It's been a process for 8 years now. We're tired of hearing about that. Everybody tired of hearing that word. Y'all 2-12. Y'all get this big three with you, Paul George, and Tyrese Maxey. And Maxey comes back from his ankle injury last night. Guess what? Paul George hyperextends his left knee. The same knee that he hyperextended in the preseason. He's probably going to be out sometime. When you get the big three together, not even one whole game, and it hurt again. And y'all 2-12. One good thing about this is the East is so doggone weak that the Philadelphia 76ers can get back in it. Miami's the number 5 seed in the East. They're the number 5 seed in the Miami Heat. They're 6-7. That's how weak the East is. So, I'm not as concerned with Philadelphia because if Paul George and Joel Embiid had been healthy to start the season, we wouldn't be having these conversations. They probably would be top 5. But because they've hurt, we're kind of probably all overreacting. But we need to overreact. That's the problem. We need to overreact because it's been a process for 8 years. We tired of hearing about that. When is the process going to actually do something? AI and them got to the finals. No, AI and them didn't win it, but they got further than y'all have gotten in Lord knows like 23 years. When y'all going to get it done? Time is ticking. When are you going to get it done? Y'all 2-12. The Washington Wizards have a better record than y'all by 1 game.